All right, what's going on, guys? Coach Roel here once again. And this time we have the great pleasure of having an alumni student. His name is Larry Horton. And Larry is currently working out of Arizona, just at a suburb just outside of Phoenix. Larry, thanks for joining us. How are you doing over there?
It's a little warm today, but doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. So I want to jump right on in here. You are an alumni student of self-storage investing. And before I get into the deal I really want to talk to you about, what were you doing prior to coming to the self storage community before being interested in investing in self storage? Kind of give us a quick little background on you.
Yeah, so I just finished up. I retired from the city where I was a police officer for 20 years. And I have a family who is very heavily involved in investing. My dad is a single family home buy and hold investor. And my grandfather was a luxury senior living facility investor. And so I had it in my blood. And I knew I was too old to do the old game, but I was too young not to do something else. And that's why I decided to look into self-storage.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the asset class in particular and what it brings to the table, what it does in a recession, just the return on investment, the whole thing. So I was very, very excited about that. I had had two single family home rentals myself. Wasn't super excited about that. The cash flow was pretty minimal, and there was a lot of headaches, especially in tenant transition. So
Mm-hmm.
naturally, self-storage. I mean, no tenants, no trash, no toilets. It was great.
Yeah. So beyond that, because I know our fearless leader and founder, Scott Myers, he likes to say without tenants, toilets, and trash. But for you, what did it really mean? Like what was some of the frustrations that you had in residential, and then what were some of the attractors that you had in moving towards expanding into self-storage?
Yeah, the finding tenants, and then the process of landlord tenant, and even in Arizona, which is a fairly landlord friendly state, uh, it just there's a lot going on there. And then at the same time, um, I was near enough to 2008, 2009 to not have forgotten what that was all about. And so I wanted an asset that was going to be resistant to a downturn in the economy. So that was something that was important to me. And I also, I didn't want to get into like strip malls. I'd had an experience with a franchise restaurant, which wasn't super awesome. And I just was like, you know what, let's get back to something that is a little bit more stable. This industry isn't really super rocket science, but strangely enough, the returns are so amazing. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Mm-hmm. And so you came to you joined the community a little while back. What did you sort of spend your time on after your first academy?
I was so I was open to anything. I was open to development. I was open to acquisition. I really wanted to get the off-market deal, but I also wanted to sharpen my conversations with brokers. At the same time, I was very new to all of this, despite my, I would call remedial experience in single-family homes. I mean, this was a whole new ball game. So
Mm-hmm.
having the mentorship and having just the network of people within Scott Meyer's organization, that helped on several occasions,
Yeah.
and just, I mean, I'll never forget the first time I called a commercial broker about a listing I had found. And so, I mean, just new things I'd never done before. And, the analysis and all the running the numbers and things like that. So all of it was fascinating. It was exciting, but also scary.
Uh-huh. That's interesting because you said your family had quite extensive experience in I guess quote unquote traditional residential type real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad, he can buy a house, and and he'll walk you through the entire process. And I wasn't super unfamiliar with that. The commercial game was a whole different situation, though, and the storage game specifically. The the industry is getting a little bit more advanced. And as a result, I wanted to make sure that I'm an individual guy. I'm not on a brokerage. I'm not a part of a syndicate. I'm not a big player in this thing, but I'm not also, I have things that I'm bringing to the table as well.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to make sure that, I didn't make the mistakes of the past that I had made with the franchise restaurant. I wanted to do something and do it right, at the right pace with the right knowledge. And it just, I wanted to enter battle armed. I wanted to make sure that I had all the tools that I was, these commercial brokers, they know what they're doing, and I
Yeah.
need to be able to compete with those guys.
Uh-huh. So speaking of which, I would like to ask you to kind of walk us through the lead up to the deal that you closed just last year. How did you
Absolutely.
find it? What was some of your, you don't necessarily have to reveal all your tricks, some of the effort or the challenges in finding this deal leading up to the first contact?
I would say relationships, and it sounds a little cliche, but truly relationships is absolutely a key part of this thing. So, it's one thing to have the knowledge and to do all the research. And that's something I needed to know and needed to figure out. And thank God for the mentoring and the coaching and the network, because I was able to gain all that knowledge. I felt very prepared going. I'd had enough conversations and analyzed enough deals to where I knew what was a good hit. And I finally found one. But the thing is I feel like, one, having Scott Meyer's name associated with mine, essentially, when I approached this particular broker about this listing, I had some instant credibility, which was great. And then it was nice because we had, at that point, I was not trying to pretend I was something more than I wasn't. I was just another guy trying to make a good deal happen. And in that earnestness and in that sincerity, I think that established a very good rapport with this broker that I was dealing with. And she and I had some
So
very
sorry
real
to jump,
conversations. No, that's
in,
fine.
but a quick little question, clarity. Did the broker already know of Scott Myers and his group?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Very familiar. Yes.
Cool. And
Um,
then in terms of your analysis of the deal, did you just kind of get an address and say, "Here's Scott, here guys, what do you do with it?"
so once I had established, I said, okay, I ran the numbers and everything looked really, really good.
So
Um,
you ran the numbers. I want to make that point of distinction.
yes. Before I brought the deal to Scott, I said, and my mentorship and coaching and things like that, I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and see if this is a viable situation or not. And it was very much so. It was, wasn't one of those things that screamed off the page, but it was
Hmm.
funny. Eventually it did. I didn't know even what I had at the time, which was pretty funny. And we talked about it amongst the group, and it was great. I got a lot of support. I got a lot of strategies. And then, we ended up signing a letter of intent and got under contract, which was kind of blew my mind a little bit. It was actually happening right around Thanksgiving. So
Okay,
literally the broker was on her way to vacation for Thanksgiving and was on the phone helping me sign my deal. It was pretty funny.
cool. So you contacted a broker to find this deal?
Right. I basically, I was in a position to where I was in a 1031 exchange situation, and
Okay.
I really needed to I needed to identify a property. Um, and so, just, hey, I'm ready to buy. I'm ready what do you have that's really good? And this broker and I had a conversation over a few different properties, and the one that I actually finally ended up buying, Lakeland, was the one we settled on.
So again, another point of distinction, you live just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, in a suburb, right?
Right. I am 3 time zones away from my facility. I
Yeah, that's
live in
huge,
Phoenix
man. That's
and
great. So this place that we're talking about, it's in Lakeland, Florida, right?
yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Initially, I started here in my own home state. I wanted to buy here, and
Yes.
I really made efforts to do that. But The numbers don't lie. And at this point I was like, well, shoot, even if it's in Lakeland, Florida, this was one of those no-brainers that after I crunched the numbers, I mean, I was like, all right, if I was to pass this deal up, I would just be kicking myself. So.
Uh-huh. So I want to touch upon that a little bit because, theoretically, you hear a lot of times, and even when I do some trainings, I say, real serious investors will go where the deals are. And if the deals are not in your backyard, don't force it because you'll end up hurting yourself even more. How were you able to overcome the fear? I assume there was some fear of investing in a facility big time, 3 time zones away from where you live.
Yeah,
What
and
gave you the confidence to go for it?
thank you. Yeah, I don't want to oversimplify this thing by just saying it's purely the numbers. You have to have obviously a situation that works. There's all kinds of variables that factor into this, like my ability to travel, management on site, whether or not this is going to be an automated situation or not. There's a lot of variables, a ton of things that are going on here. So I'm not saying that this is going to be the case for everybody on board, but if it works, if all of the factors kind of come together, then great. But for me, it was one of those things to where, having done the research and having had the conversations, and then at the same time, some of the resources at my disposal within the network, Scott Myers, I had a lot of confidence going into this, and which included a couple site visits prior to me actually signing on the dotted line.
Okay.
It wasn't something that I was going to sight unseen. I actually flew out there a couple times in order to work with this, and then at the same time, the negotiations with the broker and all kinds of different factors and stuff. I don't want to oversimplify things, but you
Sure.
also got to. I think the funniest thing that Scott very first told me when he very first met me, I met him in a conference in Denver. He said, "Remember, execute." And I'll never forget that. And he goes, "You can analyze the numbers all day long, but at some point you got to pull the trigger." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it."
Very good point. Now, so I think we've kept everybody who's watching this in suspense for long enough. Could you walk me through some of the high level numbers of what it looked like? Like, what was the list price? What did you purchase it
Absolutely.
at? What did the cash flow look like? Or some high level numbers so we get an idea.
Yeah. So the initial it's a 144 unit facility, and they were doing parking at the same. They were doing RV parking at the same time. 10 buildings, of which 9 were drive up. One is climate control, and an office in the front. They listed it at 1.4 million, and then I think we negotiated right off the bat at a number just shy of that. I think it was 1.3 million initially. I did the site visit. Turned out that part of the property wasn't zoned for the parking, so I almost walked away from the deal right there. We ended up renegotiating, and I negotiated for a price of 1.040 million, which
Wow.
was honestly, I don't know how I did that. I look back, and it's not like I'm negotiating $1 million deals every day. So how I ended up there, I got to be honest, it was just a lot of sincerity and authenticity along with math. So the
Uh-huh.
combination of those two things, which worked out really good. I ended up getting an SBA 7A loan on the property, so I could go in essentially by myself with my own money down, which was amazing.
Okay. So
So I
you were
put
able
down,
to take this down on your own
yeah,
in terms
15%
of
down.
financially.
Yeah, amazing. So that worked out really well with the 1031 exchanges. So I basically traded in 2 single family houses, and I got a self storage facility. The so the appraisal came back. It came, and it was amazing because the appraiser gave the value of the property 1.3 million.
Mm,
So without me even walking in the door, I had $260,000 in equity,
nice.
which blew my mind. That frankly was something I didn't see coming.
That's
I was
something I like to
very,
call making money in the buy.
yeah, it was impressive to say the least. So We ended up closing in spring of 2019.
Okay.
Since then, so when I did the analysis on the books, one of the nice things was the highest month that the previous owners had was around $12,000 a month.
Okay.
Uh, I
Well,
have
give me some context though. What do you think the potential theoretical highest could have been?
well, I have gotten as much as $16,000 a month
Okay.
with about 90% occupancy. The initial occupancy on the facility when I first bought it was 76%. So at one point we were up to 90% occupancy, which was $16,000 of revenue. And that was amazing because we've never gone below $12,000, which is strange to say because the previous owners had never gone above $12,000. So implementing a bunch of different things.
Yeah, well, what did you cite as areas of improvement? Because you must have had a plan before you signed on the dotted line.
The management was a massive aspect of my success, and I'm not going to even say that I'm like all that in a bag of chips. My manager on site, I will argue, is the best manager in all of self storage. So he's amazing, and it was a matter of really being a part of the community, picking up the phone, using some tools, Google My Business, using some really basic tools in order to get customers in the door.
And did you inherit this manager or you hired him yourself?
Well, I was able to. I had a woman who does transitions from ownership, and that's her whole business.
Okay.
And she came to my facility, spent about a month there on site, ended up finding the manager, hiring him, and then did another 5 months of oversight after she left the facility. And so,
And sorry, was she someone you found on your own or you met through the community?
uh, strangely, she was a recommendation from the broker. So
Okay.
that was fantastic. And the ironic thing is now she's actually part of Scott Meyer's network. So,
Ah,
and so the amazing thing about that is she hired that manager and she put a whole bunch of stuff in place. She trained me to be an owner, and that was great. It was just a fantastic situation because another thing that significantly led to not only my success but the confidence of being able to do remote managing or remote ownership, I should say.
uh-huh.
So between tenant protection insurance plans and then also just making sure that we're getting our pricing right for our unit mix, those things right there all contributed to the fact that our revenues have been successful.
Mm-hmm. So you really leveraged off of other people. You didn't just try to figure it out all by yourself.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I mean, one of my strengths that I've learned through this process is I'm happy not to know what I don't know, and I really need to rely on other folks. I think I've had arguments with people about coaching in the past, like, oh, it costs too much or whatever. And I said, well, I don't, I know for a fact that I would not have been able to pull this off without having a significant amount of support on a
Uh-huh.
significant level. They, the Scott Myers Network actually saved me from myself on several different occasions. So,
That's
uh,
excellent.
yeah.
That's excellent. So beyond being a part of the community, your manager and ramping up occupancy, uh, did you add any like profit centers, or did you convert any of the empty space to additional buildings, or did you do any of that cool stuff that I hear around the community?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We're right in the middle of an expansion right now. So we have a huge building towards the front of the property, and it used to be a carpet sales floor showcase or something like that.
Okay.
So it's about 3,000 square feet. It's not huge, but we're going to be able to add a ton of units on there. We're in the middle of that process right now in converting. That'll add about, I'm going to argue, maybe 25 to 35 more units onto the property, and that'll
Nice.
all be indoors, so it'll be temperature controlled. And we're at a position in occupancy where we can afford to do that right now, and the market demands it. So I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of meeting the need of the community.
That's awesome. Is there an exit strategy for you, or do you plan to refinance or sell in the near future, or?
Yeah, once the SBA loan gets to a point where I can refinance, I'm going to take care of that. At that point, I'm going to do a little reassessment and trying to figure out what's going on. My dad's a buy and hold guy, so I have that tendency. Uh, at the same time, the market is, the market is really hopping right now. And so if you were to sell, you would do pretty good. So especially with this expansion under my belt, I mean, the profit would be pretty significant. So
Yeah.
I'll have to just kind of wait and see. I'm about almost 2 years into my current loan, and so we'll see what happens. I mean,
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the beauty of it, is once you're in it, and you're cash flowing, then it's really up to your own personal goals and your creativity. You've got expansion. That's pretty cool. So you bought a facility that had potential for more. You're able to make money in the buy. You had negotiated. That's great. You're cash flowing from day one.
yes,
You
that was
ramp
a
up
huge
the
part.
occupancy. Now you're expanding, adding more units. What's next for you? Like, we had alluded to it just before this call about, yeah, you can make money. It's great, but what is it all, but why? What is it leading to? So you have some
Well,
money. Why?
the,
What is
the
it
thing of,
ultimately going to enable you to do with your life?
I just had a daughter last year. She just turned 1.
Congrats.
And my wife is a teacher. She's amazing. Thank you. Yes, and we're just very, very blessed. This has allowed me. I'm retired from one job. Now I've got a really significant investment. I can stay home and actually spend time with my daughter, and also, do what I need to do in order to make this business run successfully, which doesn't impede significantly into the time that I spend with my kid. And it feels like freedom. It feels like a lot of freedom, frankly, at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Is this
you
your
know,
first child?
yes, she's hilarious. And,
So that's
it,
huge to be able to
it's
spend
nice.
time.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to have the freedom
Yeah.
to know that I got an investment that's taking care of itself, that I'll visit maybe 3, 4 times a year. I've got a great manager in place. Everything's humming along. And at the same time, I can really pay attention to my daughter, and I can just be there while she's growing up and focus. So it's just kind of nice. That's a lot of the reason why I got into this, so that,
Right.
for her and for that future.
I got from one of my earliest mentors who said, if your why doesn't make you cry, you got to get yourself a bigger why.
I
That's a pretty good
love that.
reason. That's
I
a
love
pretty
that.
good why.
Yeah.
And in terms of, are you looking to expand on your portfolio? Are you still looking to acquire more deals? Are you going to do more of the same elsewhere in the country?
Well, my dad actually, in learning and seeing what I've accomplished, he says, "Well, hey, maybe you and I can do something down the road."
I
And I
have a
said,
similar experience. I was like, hey, if this guy can do it.
"Yeah." And so he's seeing what I'm doing. I'm very transparent with my numbers with him, and so he's like, "Wow." And he's actually learning. He's actually looking forward at some point in the future to attend one of Scott Meyer's academies, so he can kind of figure out what I got into. So it's a lot of fun. We'll see what
That
happens.
that's awesome. Good stuff. So yeah, we are a little bit over time, but that's cool. Tons of valuable information and thoroughly enjoyable conversation with you. I might want to just plant the seed in your ear that maybe it can have you come back and catch up with us again, and we'll see how you are, maybe 6, 12 months down the road or something.
Okay. Yeah. Love to. Love to.
Awesome. Well, Larry Horton out of just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, has his facility, cash flowing self storage facility, 3 time zones away in Lakeland, Florida, which is near my neck of woods. That's actually between, what is that? That's along I-4, right?
Yeah.
Between Orlando and Tampa Bay,
Exactly.
so that everyone watching this gets kind of an idea. Hey, maybe when this whole pandemic stuff lifts, we got a vaccine next time you're in town. Let's hook up and
That'd
let's
be great. I would love
hang out.
that. That would be fantastic, because I'm going to be going back over there. So that'd be great.
Yeah, it's just a short drive for me. So again, thanks a lot, Larry. This is Coach Roel with this week's video. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Take care.
Thanks again for joining us here at Self Storage Investing. We really, really appreciate it. For more great content like this, make sure to click the subscribe button below this video. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and BiggerPockets. You can also visit us at our main website at selfstorageinvesting.com, where you'll find even more free content, our ebook, and registration to our free webinars and education courses, and much, much more. Once again, for more great content like this, please click the subscribe button below. Thank you.